wheat and canola fields of the Overberg, their stalks swaying in the wind, creating the illusion of a rolling sea of green and yellow, hosted the penultimate round of the South African National Rally Championship. The event, the region's first national rally since 2012, took place on the 22nd and 23rd of September on the gravel of Caledon. Famed for full-throttle sweeping roads, dubbed highways by experienced campaigners, the rally would challenge the driver's bravery and the co-driver's notes. The 5-year absence also meant that local rally fans were chomping at the bit to witness their heroes firsthand. They came out in their masses, especially on Saturday, and made a day of the rally, with roadside braais signalling their intent for a full day of rally spectating. All told, the Caledon Rally was set to be one for the history books.
Okay guys, back in the Caledon Overberg Grand Prix after 5 years. It's exciting to be back here. It's a fast event, it's a flowing event, it's a beautiful event. These guys are absolutely in love with it. We've given the Malmesbury farmers a bit of a break. We've been there consistently every year, and the guys in Caledon have been begging us, please bring it back. So we've listened to our customers, and we bring him rallying back to Caledon. Look, these stages aren't for the faint-hearted. It's max attack, rev limit checks. It's going to be a really fast event. What's really nice about it is also it's not just all flat out. There's some corners into it, into the mix. So you still have to turn the wheel, have to brake and accelerate. So it's going to be exciting out there. It's really good event.
It is new stages. It's new for a lot of the guys. It's something good that we're happy to have back. We're not used to getting the high-speed stages. We're used to going around a milli field, doing that kind of thing. And this more WRC Rally Finland type stages are brilliant.
Adding to the drama was the fact that after 5 rounds of the South African National Rally Championship, only 3 points separated the title contenders in the Premier R2 class. But the difference on paper and in reality was more complex, as dropped points still needed to come into play. Simply put, each driver gets to drop his or her worst result of the season after the final race, meaning that the championship is decided on an individual best-of-6 basis, rather than just out of the 7 national events. The usually consistent Guy Botterill led the championship heading into the Caledon Rally, having won 3 of the 5 previous events. But only 3 points separated him from Richard Leek, who had proved more consistent, scoring points in each rally, despite only notching up a single victory. It was all to play for then at the Caledon Rally. The fantastic but dangerous roads would provide the opportunity to move up the standings, made more likely by the tight contest for third between Chris Kutzer and Asia Potgieter, and just 9 points separating Jono van Wyk in 5th and Hergen Fecken in 8th. After a DNF and absence from the previous rally, Lee Rose was back in action at the Caledon Rally and looking to extend his lead over Roelof Kutzer at the top of the classic class standings. In the open class, the championship was an even tighter affair, with 7 points separating the top 10 drivers. But given the fluid nature of the open class entry list, moving up had proved challenging all season so far. In the primary R2 class, the battle between Guy Botterill and Richard Leek was more complex than the 3 points on paper indicated. With Botterill's DNF at the VW Rally in Port Elizabeth during July, he would be able to drop 0 points at the end of the season, while Leek's worst result was a 6th place finish at the York Rally in Sabi back in April. Forced to drop 5 points by that result, Leek's effective deficit to Botterill was 8 points going into the Caledon Rally. But he remained bullish.
Yeah, I think there's 8 points separating us at the moment with the drop event. Our goal now is to win the next 2 events. We have to, that's the only choice we have. But it'll be very interesting if we can win this one and keep it interesting till the end.
The Caledon Rally got underway from Roller GM in Caledon on Friday afternoon. The ceremonial start establishes the 2-minute gap between the cars and allows the working folk of Caledon a glimpse of the cars during office hours. Having drawn a high number back at the season-opening Tour Natal Rally, Asia Potgieter would finally have his turn to sweep the roads. The R2 class cars were first on the road, with Potgieter leading them out in his Lake Umuzi VW Polo. He and Nico Schwartz had a point to prove given their inconsistent season thus far. Second on the road was Chris Kurzer, with Greg Godrich calling the notes in the Electro Thread Mazda 2. Kurzer won his debut rally in the new Mazda, but subsequently has found results harder to come by. Richard Leake and Henry Kona followed Kurzer on day one stages. The ATS Motorsport Ford Fiesta had been the season's most consistent finisher thus far, having completed each of the 5 preceding rallies. The striking Shield Car Care VW Polo of George Smallberger and Chris Brand was next on the road. Smallberger was 7th on the championship heading into the Caledon Rally, but within striking distance of 5th place. A 4-minute gap followed Smallberger before Chart Conradi's Silverton Engineering Toyota Etios came into view. This signaled drama for Guy Botterill, but Conradi and stand-in co-driver Kes Naidu were fully focused on the task at hand. The final R2 class on the road was the VW Vivo of Megan and Oliver Verlank. Having stepped up from the Classic class, Megan was the first female driver in the Premier class for the 2017 season. The Gazoo Racing Toyota Etios of Guy Botterill and Simon Vassilal experienced conrod failure just 7 kilometers into the opening stage. The Etios had been running smoothly in testing, and the incident occurred without warning, proving once more how unpredictable motorsport can be. After 3 near-perfect seasons on the bounce, Botterill had his title defense wrestled from his control. Tragedy for Botterill was Richard Leake's gain. The 16 points for a rally victory would go a long way to securing his maiden National Rally Championship title. But as Botterill's misfortune proved, anything can happen during a rally, and with 11 stages still remaining, it probably would. The excitement levels were at an all-time high in the Classic class as the legendary Johnny Gemmell made his rally return from a 2.5-year absence. His green Porsche 911 certainly stole the show. With Gemmell for competition, the championship leaders Lee Rose and Elvian Coetzee in their Ford Escort Mark II would have to be on top of their game at the Caledon Rally to score maximum points. The third car on the road in the Classic class was the Toyota liftback of Andrew Heine and Lloyd Brady. Heine was yet to score championship points in 2017 despite his vast experience. Next on the road was the Datsun SSS of Etienne Malherbe and Robbie Coetzee. Malherbe had campaigned solidly throughout the season and was in 3rd position in the Classic Class Championship. The Ford Escort Mark I of Roelof Coetzee and Barry White followed the Datsun on day 1. But on the championship standing, Coetzee was 19 points up on Malherbe in 2nd position.
Today in Classic Ride, highlights from previous programs. Group B Beast, the Lancia Delta S4 with turbo and supercharger. The Prince of Bubble Cars, Leopold of Bavaria and his BMW Isetta. In the race fin at the Nürburgring with Jochen Mass in hot time trials at the Eiffel Race. And the Girl and the Macho, Joey and her beloved big block Corvette.
Coming up, a look ahead at the 2018 Formula E. Audi presents its team and race car. A colorful designer car, a special edition of Citroën's DS3, and Kia's new Stonic SUV.
The second Ford Escort Mark I on the Caledon Rally belonged to Ashley and Les McKenzie. The father and son combination needed to score points to pull away from the absent Nati Boyson in the championship standings. Newcomers to the Classic class at a National Rally Championship level in 2017, Warren Kohler and Rasley Rakeleaf in a Classic Toyota Corolla were part of a large Crest Max contingent at the Caledon Rally. The final Classic class campaigners were Lola and Eddie Verlack in their VW Golf. The City Golf is a popular open class vehicle, but the Mark I Golf is well and truly a classic. The final category at the Caledon Rally was that of the open class. The catchweight class allows all manner of vehicles to compete, despite the fact that they do not meet the R2 or Classic specifications. A complex formula determines championship points, thereby allowing the turbocharged Subarus to compete with the quintessential affordable rally car, the Toyota Tazz. With none of the top 10 drivers in the championship making the trip down to the Western Cape, the Caledon Rally's open class was a largely regional affair. Western Cape Motorsport Club Crest Max were well represented, and Annie Haig-Smith was also in attendance, along with one-time S1600 campaigner Paulus Franken. Stage 2 was a repeat of the 12-kilometer long Chavon route. Lee Rose stormed to stage victory, knocking 3.5 seconds off Asia Potgieter's winning time on the first pass. Richard Leek was second fastest on the second stage, just 0.1 of a second off Rose's pace. Leek's time of 6 minutes 36.5 seconds was enough to move him into the rally lead. Asia Potgieter was the third fastest the second time round, despite reducing his stage time by 1.5 seconds. After a stall on stage 1, Johnny Gemmell showed ominous signs of his potential pace by placing 4th on the second stage. The fast roads of the Caledon Rally clearly suited the powerful rear-wheel drive classic cars. After 2 stages and just under 24 kilometers of the Caledon Rally, Richard Leek leads Asia Potgieter by 0.4 of a second. For stage 3, the rally moved to a semi-urban course through the industrial area and onto the gravel roads behind it. Johnny Gemmell absolutely blitzed the 1.5 kilometer route, winning by 2 seconds. Chart Conradi was the second fastest, but the short route was not long enough for him to claw back a significant amount of time on Richard Leek. An error on stage 1 had cost Conradi 10 seconds. Just 0.1 of a second off Conradi's pace, Leek was the second fastest R2 class throughout the tight and twisty stage. Acceleration is not the strength of the front-wheel drive 1600s. Behind the leading 4, the times were tight. With the stage being repeated later in the day, once the sun set, the drivers and co-drivers made use of the daylight run to perfect their lines and become accustomed to the most technical stage of the rally. With the sun having set over the Hottentot Hollands Mountains to the west, the drivers reassembled at the scene of stage 3 for the final stage of the evening. The short section of tarmac, illuminated by streetlights, provided the best vantage point for the spectators, especially with the cars accelerating down a hill towards the flying finish. In a short stage, fine margins can determine who sets the fastest time, and not lifting off until well over the line was nearly as key to setting a rapid time as carrying speed amongst the blue gum trees. The narrow dual-track road, dusty conditions and constant twists and turns meant that the drivers had to trust their co-drivers' notes explicitly. One man who clearly trusted his navigator's notes was stage winner Johnny Gemmell. Despite Gemmell's back-to-back stage wins, Richard Leek still led the Caledon Rally after 4 tightly contested stages on the opening day. One of the keys to a successful rally is the ability to effectively personalize the route notes during the reconnaissance. To save time and costs, the National Rally Championship only allows for a single recce pass this year, making attention to detail imperative. Ahead of the Caledon Rally, we joined the crews as they scoped out the roads of the rally.
It's probably the fastest stages we'll ever do, but it's going to be very fun, I must say. Drivers are going to hope the navigators are right by saying them max over that crest, because if it's going to be a turn on the other side in 5th gear flat out, you don't really want to be braking to a sharp corner after that.
It's highways, it's really wide, nice highways, but flat out, high speed stuff, so that's exciting. I hope we've got the right gearbox in, but it's our first time. I've never been here. Done Malmesbury on the other side of the Western Cape, but really looking forward to this kind of stuff.
The opening stage of day 2 saw Johnny Gemmell pick up where he left off overnight. After his ring rustiness on stage 1, his old pace returned with remarkable ease, clocking up a 3rd successive stage win. Richard Leek was not going to let the power of the Porsche or Gemmell's reputation intimidate him. He held the gap to just 2 seconds on the longest stage of the Caledon Rally. Leek's pursuit of Gemmel meant that RCA Potgieter lost ground on the rally leader, conceding 3 seconds to Leek and 4.9 to stage 5 winner Gemmel. The gap between the top 3 and the rest was opening on the fast open roads. Chart Conradi was 4th on the stage, but 15 seconds off Potgieter's pace and 20 of Gemmel's. On stage 6, Gemmel once again took a chunk of time out of the R2 cars, claiming another stage victory. His time of 8 minutes 48.2 seconds was over 7 seconds faster than his nearest rival. And Potgieter became that rival on stage 6. As the young VW driver set the second fastest time on the stage, he also moved into the rally lead as Richard Leek floundered.
Yeah, we haven't had the best day so far. We've been struggling a bit with some rhythm. The car's had some problems with the gear pod, messing us around, changing gears, losing power. And I would say about 5-6 Ks from the end of the last stage, we came out with a flat, so I think we lost a bit of time there.
Yeah, yes, there's a lot of stages left, so we must just keep it on the road and hold our heads together and just finish the stages and try to keep ahead of Richard.
The highly experienced pairing of Chart Conradi and Kes Naidu might not have been setting the timesheets alight, but their steady pace was putting them in a position to score good championship points. In one stellar stage, RCA Potgieter moved to the top of the timesheets, turning a 14-second deficit to a 5-second lead over Richard Leek. Stage 7 again saw Johnny Gemmel's Porsche 911 top the timesheets by 9 seconds. It was starting to look like the veteran driver could win overall in the 40-year-old car. The gap between RCA Potgieter and Gemmel was down to 20.5 seconds as Potgieter placed second on the stage in the Lake Umuzi VW Polo, and Gemmel moved into third overall. Chart Conradi continued his solid run of stage results on the 7th stage, but could only claw back 2.1 seconds on the struggling Richard Leek. Leek's second difficult stage result in a row saw him slip further from Potgieter on the overall classification. But despite losing 10 seconds to Potgieter and 20 to Gemmel, he clung on to second overall. The same route was used for stages 7 and 8 to allow spectators time to bed in and relax rather than rushing off once their favourites had passed. Johnny Gemmel was once again the pace setter. But RCA Potgieter was more competitive the second time around, reducing the time loss to the powerful Porsche from 9 seconds to 3 seconds. The roads of the Caledon Rally are daunting. Which is why most of the drivers improved their times considerably on their second pass. Richard Leek followed that trend on stage 8, losing time to Potgieter but limiting the loss to 4 seconds. Chart Conradi also improved on his stage 7 time on stage 8, but nonetheless slipped to nearly a minute back out of the reckoning for victory, the scent of which Gemmel was locked onto. Richard Leek slipped a place and Johnny Gemmel moved into second after stage 8, 17.5 seconds behind RCA Potgieter.
Africa Racing. Keep an eye out for our coverage of round number 4 of the Arrow Racing Series as we travel across the border to Namibia and the Kababas Rally. We headed up to Cattle Country for the Cattle Country Rally for 2017. In production vehicles, side-by-sides, buggies and off-road racing vehicles. And watch out for all of the racing action only on Ignition, Channel 189. Africa Racing.
What does the auto world speak? American, Japanese, German? International Autos at the Detroit Auto Show. Mazda speaks a new language, Kodo.
Like stages 7 and 8, stages 9 and 10 were run back to back on the same route. The route also boasted the most conveniently located spectator point of the rally. Not that such trivialities concerned Johnny Gemmell. Gemmell set the fastest time on the first pass, but Asia Potgieter fought back on the second to claim his first stage victory of the Caledon Rally since the opening stage of the rally on Friday afternoon. Richard Leek was the third fastest on both runs, but looked to be regaining the rhythm which he seemed inexplicably to have lost for a couple of stages during the mid-morning session. The ATS Ford was running trouble-free, but he was resigned to second in the R2 class. The ever-consistent Chart Conradi completed both stages in the fourth fastest times to secure his fourth position overall. But with the classic class Porsche only eligible for championship points in its class, the R2 drivers were not overly concerned about Gemmell's searing pace. With 2 stages left in the Caledon Rally, Asia Potgieter led by 15.2 seconds over Johnny Gemmell, while Richard Leek was third. On the penultimate stage, Johnny Gemmell made a concerted push for Caledon Rally victory, blitzing Asia Potgieter by 14.4 seconds. In so doing, he reduced the gap to just 0.8 of a second. Potgieter posted the second fastest time on the stage to extend his buffer over Richard Leek, but it appeared that the VW driver was resigned to Gemmell winning outright. Heading into the 12th and final stage of the Caledon Rally, this was the overall classification situation. On the final stage, Roelof Koertzer brought his Mark I Ford Escort home safely to claim third spot on the classic class podium. Lee Rose finished the rally in 5th position overall and in 2nd in the classic class. The Caledon Rally's most consistent performer was Chart Conradi. Conradi brought his Toyota Etios home in 4th overall to claim the final R2 podium position. Richard Leek had to be happy with 12 points for second in the R2 class, when what he clearly wanted was a victory and the 16 points to put the pressure on Botterill in the championship race. Asia Potgieter lost that 0.8 of a second and 32 more seconds on the final stage to concede outright victory to Gemmell, but he was content with the R2 win. Johnny Gemmell's competitive nature was never going to let him settle for just a class victory, and he steered his Porsche 911 to the top of the overall and classic class timesheets with a dominant final stage. After 12 hard-fought stages, Johnny Gemmell was the Caledon Rally champion, with Asia Potgieter in 2nd overall but winning the R2 class.
Yeah, you know, we started yesterday with the first stage. I had a stall, lost a lot of time there, then we dropped to 8th, I think. So then the 2 short stages late in the afternoon and evening, we had to do something there. We went well there. Then today we said no, we must rather try. We haven't come all this way just to make up the numbers, try and do something.
Yeah, it was a long straight and my tail went wild, so I went off the road and into a wire. But luckily we saved it and we just lost a few seconds and we're still first in class.
With the classic and R2 class podium ceremonies over, Richard Leek and Asia Potgieter made way for Johnny Gemmell to pull his Porsche into the center and bask in the glory of overall victory. The absence of open class championship campaigners at the Caledon Rally meant that the title will come down to the final rally of the season in that tightly contested category. In the classic class, Lee Rose extended his lead over Roelof Koertzer with a measured performance at the Caledon Rally. The R2 class, though, is set to go down to the wire. Dropping points and potentially even a countback to rally victories could determine the 2017 champion. The Caledon Rally was certainly dramatic. Engine failure for Guy Botterill threw the championship race wide open, and the ferocious pace of Johnny Gemmell provided rally fans with a spectacle. As the year rushes to its conclusion, so does the 2017 South African National Rally Championship. Now, only one event remains. The final event of the 2017 campaign will be the Carnival City Rally on the 20th and 21st of October. The Milliefields and cattle pastures of Heidelberg will provide the proving ground for Guy Botterill and Richard Leek to duke it out for the title. Join us then by following SA Rallying on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. In the meantime, to find out more about the South African Rally Championships, visit www.sarallying.co.za.